Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Friday, November 27th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. I hope everyone's having a great Thanksgiving holiday. Today we're talking Chiefs with the folks who know them the best, beat writers Herbie Teope and Sam McDowell, and columnists Vahe Gregorian and Sam Mellinger. This started as a SportsBeat Live on Friday morning. We talk about the defense. Is there cause for alarm after surrendering 31 points in each of the last two games? Also, it's a rivalry that won't last long, but it's been fun to watch Patrick Mahomes battle Tom Brady over the last couple of years. They'll meet for the fourth time on Sunday when the Chiefs visit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Plus, we give our predictions for the game. So let's get started talking Chiefs.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, our weekly gathering to talk Chiefs with the folks who cover the team like nobody else. And we're going to meet them in a minute, but the show is also about you all, and we want to hear your comments and questions about the Chiefs. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And listen, as we introduce our esteemed panelists here, I want them to sound off on the best thing that they consumed yesterday on Thanksgiving Day. So that could be food or drink. And I want to know what Sam McDowell had on Thanksgiving Day. What was the best thing you had yesterday, Sam?
We should have saved this for the candy corn segment because this is a very candy corn-like answer, but I really don't like turkey, so I had chicken yesterday, and it was great.
Right off the bat. Okay. How was the chicken prepared?
I'll have to call Colonel Sanders and ask for that recipe, but
Oh, my God. All right. So, yeah. So we're off to a flying start. All right, Vahe.
Well, Blair, first I want to say that we savored the milk of human kindness. But really, it was the sweet potatoes. It was a dish that featured strong topping of, I can't remember if it was pecans or walnuts on it, but everything else was really good, including the Costco apple pie. But I kept going back to the sweet potato well more than I should have.
Maybe feeling it a little bit today.
For days to come, no doubt.
Okay, that was Vahe Gregorian. We've got Herbie Teope and Sam Mellinger joining us, but here's Herbie. Herbie Teope is the primary beat writer for the Chiefs. And Herbie, what was the best food or drink you had on Thanksgiving Day?
Hey, I had leftover Pizza Hut, baby, and then for dessert, cinnamon crunch with almond milk. Top that.
Cinnamon. Well, at least you're in the season with the cinnamon. But okay, I don't know what to say about that, except I'm really sorry.
Can I chime in with just something there that I think will be near and dear to our audience, that we all learned about the cinnamon crunch together as one in the house we shared covering the Super Bowl. But Herbie, I think this is your opportunity to thank Blair for adding the almond milk to the mix.
That's right. I'm forever thankful to Blair Kerkhoff for introducing almond milk to our esteemed group here.
That's the only good thing that came from that trip. The rest has required years of therapy.
Sam Mellinger joins us, and Sam, I don't know if you've heard that before we get into Chiefs talk, we are reviewing the best thing that we consumed on Thanksgiving Day, food or beverage. And so far, from three answers, we have one traditional Thanksgiving fare, Vahe sweet potatoes. Also on the board, chicken and cinnamon toast crunch cereal.
Oh, God.
How about you, Sam?
I know who said cinnamon toast crunch, but I met my mother-in-law, and she makes real stuffing, carrots, and celery. So that might be the best. And then, fridge. And
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, you're
kind of
You're going to have to go to another room and type in the private chat what you just said, because we didn't get to hear that. And I'll repeat it. So yeah, you are coming. You're in and out, and we are. Listen, we look like we're going to have some technical difficulties. We had some anyway in the run up to this, so bear with us. We'll try to get it worked out. So yeah, I'm actually hearing what Sam had to say. I'll go with this. We had a dessert yesterday that had a little bit of a bourbon caramel drizzle on it, which was fantastic. And then I had bourbon. So, so the drizzle and the non-drizzle part of the bourbon was terrific. Okay, while we look to reconnect with Sam Mellinger and get his. Hang on, before we do. Beth had sweet potato pie with bourbon in it. So well done, Beth, our producer. Okay, guys, Chiefs and Bucks on Sunday, 3:30 kick. I think the first thing I'll say about this game is, it seems like the Bucks schedule changed in terms of television appearances for Tampa Bay when Tom Brady signed. And this one was not selected for a Sunday night or Monday night or Thursday night game. I'm a little surprised by that. Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. So instead, we got like Bucks Rams on Monday night. And should this have been a primetime game? Vahe, what do you think?
Well, it has all the elements of a primetime game, and good for us that it's not, right? I mean, anything that's slightly earlier in the day enhances our opportunities to be more creative and cover it better. So we'll take that. I will say if Patrick is looking for some late grudge issues here coming into the final 48 hours to get himself motivated, I saw some graphic on one of the games I was watching yesterday. It showed a reference to the game, but it only had Tom Brady's image there. So I'm sure Patrick's been alerted to that. But more seriously, and you alluded to this in your preview stuff today that posted today, I think, Blair, just it's the fourth time Patrick and Tom Brady will meet. Brady's won 2 of the 3, but Patrick's played really well. And in a lot of ways, he kind of gave notice to the world in that loss in the AFC Championship game that Chiefs are going to have to be reckoned with for a long time. So I think that'll be the matchup within the matchup, and plenty of ways to look at Brady. Hard to know if he can still generate it downfield, but his presence back there still makes a big difference. So I'm excited about the matchup.
Yeah, I agree. Which it's Tom Brady, and it's funny after Brady moved on to the Bucs in the offseason, the question was asked, were the Patriots all about Belichick or all about Brady? And so far, Brady has the better record, but the Patriots haven't been the same without them together this season. We're seeing that. So we'll get into more Brady Mahomes here in a minute. But first, I wanted to ask Herbie about, as we often do when we start the show, injury updates. And there's not much information on that front, maybe except to say we might get to see some guys back this week. At least one guy in particular, Herbie. Is that right?
Yeah, the big one is obviously Sammy Watkins. 2 straight days with a full practice, and I think that's the first time he's done that since week 5. He's missed 5 games with a hamstring injury. And then last week, a calf injury popped up on the injury report on Thursday after he put in a full practice the day before, leading to him being designated as a surprise out. But it looks like, barring a setback, the Chiefs will finally get Watkins in the lineup. And that's huge because they placed Byron Pringle on injured reserve earlier in the week. If Watkins was not available, they would have been down to 3 healthy options with Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and Demarcus Robinson. So Watkins is looking like he will play. So that's big for the Chiefs offense. Other than that, I mean, they had 11 players listed on the injury report on Thursday. All of them practiced fully, which is a good sign. And Friday is usually a light practice anyway, just a quick walkthrough. So if Watkins is out there, and I'll know that here shortly when I head out there, but it's looking like he will return.
And it seems like we'll probably see more snaps for McCole Hardman this week. He got in the game. I didn't see the snap counts, but it had to be just a handful from McCole Hardman last week. So he had a big reception on the on the final drive. But wasn't that a matter of just not being able to work out with the team for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it absolutely had everything to do with it because hopefully most people remember McCole Hardman landed on the reserve COVID list during the bye week. So he wasn't activated until Saturday. And while you're on that list, you can't be around the team. So he did not put in any practices. But he was forced into action in the second half after Pringle suffered the ankle injury, and he ended up playing 17 snaps on the game.
Okay, let me throw a couple more names at you, Herbie, and just give us an update on their status. How about Martinez Rankin, the offensive lineman?
Hey, he practiced fully. He's not showing up on the injury report. He was activated off of the reserve COVID-19 list earlier in the week as well. So the fact that he's not on the injury report means that he will be available as well. Okay,
and how about Stefan Wisniewski? Back with the Chiefs for the stretch run, just as he was last year.
And I think that's huge. Okay, remember last year they added him roughly around this time frame as well, late in the season, second half, and he was eventually inserted into the starting lineup for the stretch run and then he started all 3 playoff games. Currently, he's on the practice squad, and the plan is to eventually bring him up, and that's just huge. When we asked Andy Reid about that on Wednesday, and he basically said, hey, it's you're bringing in a guy that knows the system. He's a veteran. He's a plug-and-play option, and if they're not satisfied with Nick Allegretti at left guard or Andrew Riley at right guard, you've got a plug-and-play option in Wisniewski.
Very good. Okay. Hey, we got Sam Mellinger back. Sam.
What's up, guys? Is this better?
Much better. You sound great.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go back. We got to reverse course here. What was the best thing you ate on Thanksgiving Day?
So, yeah, I'm at my mother-in-law's, and she makes like the legit cook it in the turkey bread and carrots and celery and whatever else magic you put into a turkey to make stuffing, like the real stuff. And so that's the best thing I'll eat all year. And then I go to the fridge, you guys. This was before the stuffing. But I go to the fridge, get yourself a beer. And I open up the fridge, and it was amazing. I just hear this, yeah, I didn't know what you'd want, so I just got a bunch of Tank 7. I said, that'll do. That'll do.
Oh, man, the defaulting to the Tank 7. That's a Thanksgiving miracle.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, it was a good night.
Very good. All right. Hey, let's talk a little bit more about Chiefs and Bucks. But before we get into the looking ahead, let's look back to the Vegas game on Sunday night. So the question I think that all Chiefs fans want to know is what we think about this defense. And the question would be, do the Chiefs have a Raiders problem specific? Chiefs have given up 30-plus points 3 times this season, now twice to the Raiders, but also 2 weeks in a row because the Panthers went for 31 and the Raiders went for 31 in back-to-back weeks heading into this Tampa Bay game. So that's certainly a topic that dominated Sports Talk Radio this week, and I know we've talked and written about it. We don't get to talk to defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo until a little bit later today to get his thoughts on it. So let's try to break it down and try to determine whether this is a problem specific to the Raiders or if there are bigger issues here for the Chiefs defense. Melly, let's start with you.
Well, first, let's all agree that the Raiders are a good team. And so there's a lot of the other 30 teams in the NFL that are going to have a Raiders-specific problem, right? That being said, I think that they do present some problems that line up with some ways to beat the Chiefs, and namely the weapons, and especially speed on the outside and the ability to protect Derek Carr. If you look through the Pro Football Focus numbers on week-by-week pressures, the Chiefs are not producing like less pressure than most teams. They're right in line with what the Raiders typically give up. The difference is that it's less than what the Chiefs typically produce, and that Chiefs defense is built from the roster construction to the scheme, the play calls, everything Spagnuolo does, it's built for pressure. That's where they spent the money and the draft picks. The back end, other than Tyrann Mathieu, is kind of, we'll just have some guys. And so that's the biggest problem. And so that part of it is, specific to the Raiders, because they protect Carr well enough and they have the weapons on the outside. And that is something that Chiefs are going to have to deal with.
Blair, just to build off that point, I mean, so Chris Jones actually had 5 hurries on Pro Football Focus on Sunday, which is more than he's had in any game this season. Frank Clark had 4, which is as many as he's had in any game this season. The difference in the Chiefs, and I think this is what's more than a Raiders issue when you compare this year to last year, is the other guys were contributors last year. Last year they got, 6 sacks from Emmanuel Ogbah before he went down. They got significant contribution from Alex Okafor. The other guys aren't winning one-on-one this year. And that's where, if, I'm a Chiefs fan, I would worry a little bit that it's more than just the Raiders. And the Raiders have a good offensive line, but it's not ranked the best in the league. I think they're around 9th or 10th on some of the metrics. So it obviously it showed up against the Raiders. And when you look at some of the advanced metrics, they were worse against the Raiders in both games than they have been in any other 2 games since Steve Spagnuolo's Chiefs career. But I think that there are some things that probably cause, a little bit a sign for alarm beyond just the Raiders. And that's just that they're not getting pressures from the guys other than Frank Clark and Chris Jones right now. And those are the guys getting the most attention, of course.
And the most money, right? I mean, these are $20 million a year guys, and they're paid to get to the quarterback. And it hasn't happened, or at least hadn't happened against the Raiders, and didn't happen against the Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater either. So
it hasn't been, but there's a reason for that. And I mean, Chris Jones is getting double, and sometimes even he gets the double team, and then he's got to also beat the back if he beats the double team. And Chris Jones and Frank Clark's getting chipped quite a bit. Now, I still think Frank Clark doesn't win one-on-one as much as we saw him win last year. But to me, the other guys are all getting one-on-one matchups, and the Chiefs aren't winning a lot of those other one-on-ones.
Well, does that mean Pennell and Nadi aren't doing their job either in the middle? If guys on the end are getting double teamed, shouldn't some pressure come from up the middle?
Yeah, for sure. But obviously the strength of those guys are their run defense. And to me, you've got to have the opposite defensive end is the guy that's getting one-on-one a lot, that's got to sort of – he's either got to win on the outside and force that middle pressure to be more effective, or he's got to win on the inside and chase the quarterback out of the pocket. And they're just not getting a lot of that other defensive end position right now.
It's a large concern, as both Sams have touched on. Okay, in the first 8 games, the Chiefs defense limited opponents to 20 points or less in 7 of those 8 games. And I'm a firm believer in once is a fluke, twice is a habit. In the last 2 games, it's been a habit of bad defense. 62 total points, 799 total yards, 9 big plays defined as 20 yards or more in those 2 close contests. And that's just not a recipe for winning. McDowell had nailed it. Okay, when you talk about Nadi and you talk about Mike Pennell, they're space eaters. That's what they do. They're the kind of defensive tackles, the interior defensive linemen that are not going to command the headlines, because their job is to take up the space and funnel all the action to all the players around them. And that should allow the linebackers to flow to the ball. And we're just not seeing any of that right now.
Let me go ahead, Vahe.
Oh, I'd only add, just kind of a fusion of what all 3 of these guys have pointed out. I mean, I do think there's a little bit of a specific matchup, might be the wrong way to put it, but matchup thing with the Raiders going on here. They scored 54 points in their first 5 quarters of the season against the Chiefs defense. I mean, that's horrifying. That's unbelievable. But it feels a little bit like kind of rock, paper, scissors. Like it's very specific in some ways to, as Sam Mellinger pointed out, some of their strengths really just happen to play right into some of the Chiefs. I don't know if weaknesses is the right term, but at least vulnerabilities. And some of these, the real question is how much of this is going to be more widespread and duplicatable, if that's a term for everybody else. So I think some of it's Raiders specific, but I really do think also that it exposes some broader concerns, obviously, for the Chiefs.
Whatever it is, because as all of us know, the NFL is all about trends. I mean, and smart offensive coordinators, smart defensive coordinators, smart head coaches spot the trends. And this is a bad 2-week trend that we're seeing out of the Chiefs defense. And they're going to have to fix it in a hurry because I almost said Patriots. The Buccaneers, they can push the ball downfield with the weapons that they have. So if you're starting to see a bad trend from the Chiefs defense and there's a quarterback who can take advantage of it, you got to right the ship in a hurry here before you head down to Tampa for Sunday's game.
It's a great test at the right time too, because Brady's better than Derek Carr, but like he's just another guy that if you don't pressure him, he's gonna kill you, and if you pressure him, he's gonna throw some really bad. He's gonna look 43 years old. You know what I mean? Like it's just like if you could pick the right opponent for this moment of the Chiefs season, I think the Bucs it's just a really interesting test in a lot of ways.
Herbie mentioned it, the defense trending the wrong way. But let me throw this stat at you. The Chiefs right now are 7th in the NFL in points allowed defensively. That's really good. They're 15th in yards allowed. Those figures and their ranking in the NFL would be the best for the Chiefs in any of the last 5 years. The points allowed would match the lowest that they've ranked, and the yards allowed would be the best figure, that they're the best ranking they would have had. So they did play well early in the year, trending in the wrong direction. But I think, and just the opposite last year, right? The Spagnuolo was a first-year defensive coordinator here. People were getting used to him, getting used to the schemes, had injuries to deal with in the first part of the season. But it was about this time a year ago, after the Tennessee loss, that the defense played pretty well down the stretch and played well when it had to in the postseason. You just don't like the direction it's heading to now. And I agree with you, Melly, that I think Sunday's game is a really good test for this team. And I think also the fact that they've been hearing it all week, that this is, Chris Jones went on Twitter to yap with a media member about his play. And hey, what do we know about the little dust up on the sideline between Chris Jones and who was it? L'Jarius Sneed? Who was he yapping with?
Yeah, it looked like L'Jarius Sneed. I just this is where my mind goes, but I just keep thinking this is where locker room access would be great. That's how we find this out. We're not going to find it out by, who the Chiefs PR gives us on Zoom calls.
True. Listen, which is the correct way of we don't know. People who have asked us about what's going on, we just don't know. At least until there's been one media call this week with the Chiefs because of the late night flight back from Vegas and the Thanksgiving week schedule. So maybe we'll learn more about this today. We've talked about Tom Brady and Mahomes. I love the matchup. If you want to call it a passing of the torch, changing of the guard, we certainly framed Chiefs Patriots meetings over the last 2 years that way with these two quarterbacks. I'm amazed that Tom Brady can be this effective at this age. He's a marvel to be a 43-year-old quarterback who can lead a team they're in the playoffs if the season ended today. This is exactly what the Bucs believed they were getting when they signed Tom Brady. So still, he has had his issues, right? Most inaccurate passer over the last few weeks on balls of 20 yards or more. He's is it 19 straight incompletions on passes of 20 yards or more, which is kind of amazing. So it almost seems like there's maybe a little bit of a conflict between what the Bucs want him to do and what his strengths are. Do you see it that way, Sam McDowell?
Yeah, Bruce Arians says they're completing those routes fine in practice. I think he's actually up to 22 straight incompletions on passes over 20 yards, 19 in the last 4 games. 3 of them have been caught. They've just been caught by the other team. So, it's interesting because if you look at Tom Brady mentally, obviously he's just as sharp as ever, which is why, as Sam pointed out, this is a really interesting matchup because I thought one of the reasons that the Raiders were able to beat the Chiefs defense consistently is they got a lot of one-on-one matchups. That there was part of that was play calling, part of that was also the quarterback making the right decisions. For whatever Tom Brady doesn't have at 43 years old, he still has the decision making, I think. So that's why, like I said, as Sam pointed out earlier, the Chiefs still have to figure out their own issues, because just because this guy's 43 years old and maybe he's not throwing the deep ball as well, the Raiders didn't beat the Chiefs a whole lot deep on Sunday, and they were still pretty effective.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
I wrote this just briefly for something that's online now, but I think Patrick Mahomes loves these opportunities. I think he really likes to. He's shown nothing but respect and to the established NFL players that he's faced, and I don't think he respects anybody more than Tom Brady and his accomplishments. And I think Patrick Mahomes has enough kind of fan in him to just and then having the experience of being an NFL quarterback to understand and appreciate what Tom Brady has done and what he's about. And I imagine Patrick Mahomes thinks about chasing Tom Brady's accomplishments and winning that many Super Bowls and being, and one day maybe being the NFL's career leader in passing yards and touchdown passes, chasing the Mannings and the Bradys and people like that. Do you guys get that sense too?
I do, and Blair, I love some of the numbers you found and researched that. 3-0 against Lamar Jackson, 5-2 against, I think it was a combination of Roethlisberger,
Rivers, and Deshaun Watson. I think
Deshaun Watson, and of course now 1-2, I guess against Brady, right? So I think along the lines of some of the other stuff we've written about Patrick, how Sam McDowell wrote last week about how he's not gonna lose twice to anybody in a season, and we've certainly all found different ways to look at the way he motivates himself and the things that get him excited. It's a long season, and finding ways to get yourself into each game is even for the hyper talented guy that he is, that's a part of it. And I think this is right up his alley. I mean, I think this is exactly the kind of game he does live for, as you said.
Yeah, there's Mahomes isn't the only one that thinks like this, but there is a difference, I think, in athletes of big moments, big games, and then specifically like big moments in those big games. You're either like, oh crap, like this is a lot of pressure, I don't know, or this is awesome, like this is an opportunity. And I think we've seen Mahomes. This is 2.5 seasons of very much like this is an opportunity. And I think he looks at Brady, 6 Super Bowls, obviously. But I also wonder, we haven't really talked to him about this, and it would be kind of dumb to do it because he's only 25. But I think he looks at the way that Brady has like kept up his body and that he is performing. He's not as good at 43 as he was at 38 or 33 or 28. But I think that Mahomes looks at that with a great deal of respect and something to chase as well. Not just the 6, but the longevity. I think that's part of it too.
Hey, Sam McDowell, what's the line on this one?
3. It's 3.5. The Chiefs are favored by 3.5, which is interesting because the Bucs haven't been an underdog in 6 weeks now. So the Chiefs have, of course, only been an underdog once all season. That was in Baltimore.
Okay. John McConnell weighs in from Evergreen, Colorado. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we've had some people wonder about Juan Thornhill as well. Sam? Let's go back to you, McDowell. What's going on with Juan Thornhill? And he just doesn't seem to be the same player he was when he was an all rookie selection last year.
Yeah, only played 11 snaps. I mean, that was kind of a surprise on Sunday. I understand he's not the same guy he was that pre-ACL, at least not yet. I mean, it's still only 11 months since the guy tore his ACL. He's certainly accelerated his timeline to come back. And I think a lot of people thought just because he was deemed fully healthy and ready to play that we were going to see the Juan Thornhill we saw for the back half of last season. That's not been the case. You know, Tyrann Mathieu, the guy we asked about Juan Thornhill in training camp. What are you telling him? And he said he was telling him to be patient. You're not going to be the same guy you were the first day you step back onto the field. We asked him again this week. He reiterated that message and said it took him – the Tyrann Mathieu, of course, he's gone through this twice. And he said it took him 1, even 2 years after tearing his ACL before he felt like he was fully back. And we're still 11 months removed from Juan Thornhill tearing his ACL. He's certainly not as effective as what he was last year, but I don't think that means he's not going to get there. What does surprise me is I think the only way he does get there is more snaps, more reps. And so it surprised me that, you know, this Chiefs team's already going to the playoffs. And I think that they should be targeting the best possible team they can have once they get there. And to me, that still includes Juan Thornhill.
I thought it was interesting that the way Andy Reid, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I thought after the game, Andy referred to him as a situational player or to that effect, which I thought was different than saying he's still coming along from the injury. I just was sort of surprised at how Andy phrased it.
He added the injury part afterwards, and I think it was because maybe he didn't want to just have the quote out there that he was a situational guy right now, because they can say that, but he hasn't been the situational guy for the first 8 weeks of the year.
Yeah, that's I mean, exactly right. Far different than numbers, right? I mean, what have the numbers normally been? I mean, pretty much starters numbers, right?
Yeah, 90+% in most of the games he's played.
He played, it was something like at least 97% of snaps for the first 6 weeks or something like that. So it makes sense to bring him back slowly from injury, but that's not what they've done.
And after a bye week,
so maybe he has a setback, but he hasn't been on the injury report, right? So I think they're upset with upset's not the right word, but I think they're talking more about play, production, decisions, that kind of thing on the field.
For sure, but one of the things that potentially played into it, and of course we'll know more Sunday based on how much he plays Sunday, but they played an extra linebacker a lot against the Raiders to try and stop the run. Of course, that didn't prove to be the right strategy. They did stop the run. They gave up a lot in the passing game. And so they took away that deep line. Juan Thornhill is a lot of times the last line of defense. They kind of took away that last line of defense in favor of the extra linebacker. Maybe they thought it was a matchup thing, but again, there was no game plans last year or even in the first 2 months of this year that did not include Juan Thornhill on the field.
Right.
Well, and that's how you get Dan Sorensen and Tano Passanio on Darren Waller, right? I mean, it's not an advantageous situation for the Chiefs.
Twice. Tano's on the when you look at I always go through and look at the receiver versus defender matchups every week. And it's surprising when Tano's credited with giving up 2 completions in any game.
That's right. When 90
if you look back, that play, the Witten play, the touchdown, pretty damn good coverage by Tano. He was right there. He put his long arm, through. I think he even got a fingertip on it. It was
It was
good coverage by him.
He is athletic, but
he learned it from the Bob Sutton days. He was asked to be in coverage quite a bit.
Well done.
Probably raised his hand in practice. Coach, I've been asked to do this before. I can do
it. Some folks have asked about DeAndre Baker and when we might see him. Sam, any idea?
I think it's potentially more likely after what we saw on Sunday than I probably would have said before Sunday. Tyrann Mathieu said he looks good in practice. Of course, the Chiefs aren't allowing us to talk to Baker because he's on the practice squad, so we can't actually get a feel for what he's been doing to try and stay. The guy hasn't played football in a year. So I think that's a major question, to throw him in the stretch run when you've got guys that are in form, and all of a sudden you've got a cornerback especially, that hasn't played in a year.
And these are things that we might not know until Sunday, right? Until they're on the field and practicing, and we don't know until 90 minutes before the game what the inactives are for that game, or who's even if he has been activated. So from the practice squad. All right, hey, what do you guys think about? I'm going to ask Herbie this. Herbie had to leave to get to practice, but last night after that embarrassment of a game between the Washington Football Club and the Cowboys, we were supposed to be able to switch over and watch the Steelers and Ravens. That game's been moved to Sunday, and with Lamar Jackson's out with COVID, the backfield for the Ravens is out. I think they've got 4 players. That's as of 10 after 10 Central Time this morning. And if they can't play that game, I'm not sure what the options are. There's no all the buys have been just about every team's buy. I know the Buccaneers have a buy after the Chiefs, but just about every other team's open week is done. Steelers and Ravens don't have a place on their schedule for this game. What might happen if the I can't remember in my lifetime. Vahe and I go back to the to the Bart Starr days of the NFL. I don't remember a forfeit in the NFL. What's going to happen if Steelers and Ravens can't play? And this has implications for the Chiefs too, right? Because a Lamar Jackson led Ravens team looking to avenge an earlier loss, could have I think could have resulted in a loss for Pittsburgh.
Well, at first, it was good for the Chiefs. If that's all you care about, it was good for the Chiefs that game was postponed and not played on Thursday with all the cases that the Ravens had. But a lot of people were like sort of snapping back at the Steelers. Some of their players got on Twitter and other places and, sort of complained about the game being moved when they've taken care of their business and like critical of those Steelers players. I totally get that. I think that's how they should have felt. Like they've taken care of their business and they got kind of screwed earlier in week, was it 3 or 4, when they were supposed to play the Titans and, burned a bye and now have to play. I totally get, where they're coming from. And, in the last, what was it, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, everybody was talking about the expanded postseason. Right. In case of, and that's why they did it. It was in case of, a thing exactly like this. So I'd imagine that's where it's going. I don't understand why they can't just push the postseason back. Like, there's no reason that it has to be on that specific schedule. I'm sure TV has something to do with this, but people are going to watch the Super Bowl no matter where it is. The Buck Stadium is going to be open for the Super Bowl, no matter when they want to play it. So that's what I would do. But it seems like they've got this other plan in place for situations like this.
The league has mentioned the possibility of a Week 18, and they would eliminate the bye between the AFC and NFC championship games and the Super Bowl if they had to do that. I just always come back to this. The NFL is the one sport that had the advantage of time. They weren't in season when this pandemic hit. Like the rest of them had to adjust on the fly. The NFL should have foreseen this coming. I thought they should have put in 18 weeks at the start of the season, added an extra bye for most teams late in the year to account for this. You could have adjusted the way you did some things earlier in the year. You had to have some teams play on Tuesday. Obviously, we've seen 3 Chiefs games adjusted. The tricky part is the Ravens are supposed to play on Thursday, right? I mean, they're supposed to play the Cowboys, I think, on Thursday night next week. So if you've got to move this game to like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, I mean, you're kind of stuck. You'd have to move that game as well. It's just the NFL could have added some layers of protection for some schedule arrangements, and they just chose not to do it. I don't know whether they thought this wouldn't happen when the world told us this was going to happen, but here we are. It's the winter. It's November 27th right now. We still have 5 weeks left in the season. There's no telling what could potentially have to be adjusted over the final 5 weeks.
There's a there's a really interesting accompanying question here too, and it's sort of beneath the bigger picture, which is, okay, how do you do the greater good for the health, right? I mean, you got to be thinking about that first at all times. But the interesting subset of it is there's every week it seems a team has X amount of guys that are out with COVID, right? And thus they're at a competitive disadvantage because they've missed some guys from COVID. But if you get so many guys that you can't play, then that competitive disadvantage is pushed off or rescheduled. And it's just, if you look at the season as a battle of attrition, there's something just kind of fundamentally off with this whole way we look at it too, because people actually seem to feel like, well, it's Lamar Jackson, so the Ravens can't play. Now I realize there's other numbers there, and that's part of it, but I think people actually think that there's chances games get moved just because of personnel being so high profile, so marquee. And meanwhile, if you get, guys on the line that aren't as visible, that doesn't matter as much. I'm not articulating this at all the way I want to, but I do think there's a competitive thing that's kind of overlooked in the shadows of this.
There's some consistency questions too. I mean, do you remember, was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? The 49ers had 7 healthy players, and the NFL just made them play. I understand some of those were, actual football injuries, as well as COVID. But it's just there just seems to be a little bit, and there's no perfect answers. Even good answers left 9 months ago. But there's just there doesn't seem to be any consistency with how this thing is being handled.
I mean, one of the reasons you've got more guys on the COVID list is based on this contact tracing. And to me, that goes back to what Sam said initially, which is the Steelers are upset because they felt like they took care of what they're supposed to take care of. Contact tracing is included in that. So you're not supposed to have outbreaks if you follow the protocols. We should mention this. The Chiefs are now changing the time of their availability for us when we are going to be talking to these players starting this week. We used to talk to the players about 11:45 every day. Now we're going to be talking to them after practice. But one of the reasons they've made that adjustment is because they want the players in their facilities with downtime, as little downtime as possible. So it used to be if they came in before practice, that time we'd talk to players. The rest of the guys who we're not talking to, so what is that, the 51, 52 guys on any given day, have downtime. They want to get rid of that. So now we're talking to the guys after practice so that they can come in a little bit later. That's another thing that one team in the NFL, happens to be the team we cover, is doing to try and mitigate this problem. If the Ravens have one guy have it and then 8 or 9 other guys have it, to me, that's ineffective with their contact tracing. They're not following the rules properly. And that's why I think the Steelers are pretty miffed, because the whole schedule shouldn't change for a team that didn't follow the protocols properly.
Yeah, that's a better said version of what I was trying to say earlier.
And 10 times better said than what I was trying to say.
Well, I do want to, sorry, Blair, I do want to add one caveat. There's certainly ways you can get this disease, and you're being perfectly careful. So I'm not blaming the entire thing on the Ravens. But the contact tracing is something all of us can follow. And certainly those guys in the NFL team that know they're around other guys that are doing their own thing.
And it's worth pointing out that the strength and conditioning coach screwed up and put the entire team in a really bad situation. And that's, look, everybody has a part. Everybody has an important part. But the strength and conditioning coach needs to be one of those guys who is following it perfectly. And for that guy to, go that far outside the lines is that's pretty terrible.
And Brian LaBerge mentions the way COVID's dropping teams, getting the seed, 1 or 2 seed, maybe a moot point with the bye going away. That's exactly right. I mean, that's
yeah.
The playoff bracket will expand to 8 teams, and the number 1 seed will play 8 instead of 1 getting a bye with a 7-team conference bracket. So pros are doing at least doing a better job than colleges. Missouri plays Vanderbilt today, on Saturday. That's the 4th different time on the schedule from the preseason that Missouri has been scheduled to play Vanderbilt, and it's that's how the game has moved around that much on the Missouri and Vandy schedules. So
there's been a lot of people have just been dying to see that game too. I feel bad for them.
Missouri's got 4 weeks to get in 4 games. We'll see if they can. We'll see if they can do it. Supposed to play Arkansas though. The week started with Missouri playing Arkansas. Now Vandy's coming to Faurot Field. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. It was great to see you all, and Sam Mellinger and Vahe from alternate locations today. Great job, you guys. Sam McDowell, always great to see you. Herbie Teope is gone. Before we do, listen, it's Thanksgiving weekend. It's the time for high school football state championships. I love this weekend. I remember my days going to high school state championship games, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Ray Peck playing in the Missouri Class 6 title game this Saturday. On the Kansas side, we've got Blue Valley North in 6A, Mill Valley in 5A, St. James in 4A, and to all the high schools that are playing for state championships. Also, semifinals going on in Missouri this weekend. Good luck to all those teams. And I want to call your attention to a couple of stories that the Star wrote this week. Vahe had a terrific column on Jack Bush, the longtime Central High basketball coach who passed away last weekend. Wonderful story. And Sam Mellinger, great job on Eric, the 10-year anniversary of Blue Valley High winning its last state championship under Eric Driscoll, who passed away a little bit later. So if you get a chance, go read those columns and everything else that we write. We are loaded with Chiefs coverage this week. Hey, a couple guys want to know what we predicted for final score. So let's go out on that note. Let's give a score. I do one for the paper every week. I got the Chiefs 30-27, but I struggled with it. I really wanted to take the Bucs, but in the end, I just said Patrick Mahomes and went with Chiefs. How about you, Vahe? How about a guess of a score?
I think I'm going to do my weekly prediction. Same weekly prediction is like 34-21 Chiefs. I think they'll get the pick six on Brady that changes that dynamic a little.
Probably by Tyrann Mathieu, I would think, right?
That's already written.
Sam McDowell?
I kind of think similar to Vahe this week. I think 34-24 Chiefs.
Chiefs are going to blow out to the Raiders, right? Because they had all of the emotional advantage, the revenge, the victory lap, and all that, and they were the Chiefs.
Don't call out my picks, Blair.
All right, Melly.
34-30, something like that. I want to say that the defense will bounce back, but at this point I want to see it before I predict it. So, but their offense is so freaking good. You know what I mean? So if you've got 34 points coming, you're still in pretty good shape.
I was going to say the Chiefs defense has given up 31 each of the last 2 weeks, and the Chiefs have won both of those games. So
right.
They just Mahomes you to death with this team. So, all right, guys, and for Beth Welsh, our producer, you guys have a great rest of your Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and we will talk to you after Sunday's game in Tampa Bay. Thanks, guys.
That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith, and a big shout out to Beth Welsh, who produced the SportsBeat Live this morning and today's SportsBeat KC podcast. Thanks, Beth. Also, tip of the cap to the Chiefs A team of Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, and Vahe Gregorian. You can find their stories in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, we got another deal for you, especially for those that want a deep dive into the Stars' terrific Chiefs coverage. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. That's kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. You want more than just sports coverage? I know I do. Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And I know that's a lot of dots and dashes. Sounds like Morse code. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, just send me an email at bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I will get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Monday breaking down the Chiefs game at Tampa Bay.